Vinny Arnese here with American Standard. I want to show you our remotes, which will allow you to control our Selectronic flush valves and commercial faucets when doing reprogramming. If you find yourself in the field coming across a red sensor, you're going to use the 605X RCT. If you find yourself in the field coming across a yellow sensor or amber sensor, you're going to use the 605X RCW remote. In this video, we're going to be focusing on the 605X RCW remote. Right now, let's go over some of the features with this remote. Okay, so we have our remote here, and we're going to start with powering up, just holding down the power button. It's going to load up, and it's going to bring you to our main menu. So you have a couple options there. It says Connect, Language, and Demo Mode. Language, we don't really need to go into that. And we're not doing a demo mode. So what we're going to do is connect to the sensor. First thing you're going to want to do is put the sensor in activate mode. Again, this is the yellow sensor, so it's a little different than the red sensor. And by putting the sensor into activate mode, really you're just initiating the sensor. So you'd either cover the sensor for 5 seconds, 8 seconds, and then release your hand, and then you'll probably hear the solenoid click. Word of advice, shut the water off just in case. You don't want the unit flushing while you're doing programming.
Say that all to the camera.
Oh. Jesus, I forgot.
Remember, I got to be able to break it up a little so it's not just the remote.
Yes. Okay, so let me just start it over.
Can you looking down?
I'm just going to start over from the beginning there. So here we are with the remote, and we're going to start off by powering up the unit, just by holding down the power button. And it's going to bring you to the main menu, which says Connect, Language, or Demo Mode. And what we're going to do, we're going to skip Language and Demo because I think we're okay there. We don't need to do Demo. But we are going to connect to a toilet sensor. And before we do that, I do want to give some word of advice. You have to set the sensor into activate mode. And what that means is you would activate the sensor. And so you would cover the sensor, whether it's a faucet or a flush valve, for 5 to 8 seconds, release your hand, and then have the solenoid activate. You'll hear the click of the solenoid. Word of advice as well, shut the water off because you don't want the unit to be constantly turning on and flushing while you're trying to do the programming. So let's connect. We're going to activate the sensor first, so I'm just going to cover the sensor. And this one isn't hooked up to a solenoid, but that's okay. We're just for test purposes. So I'm going to remove my hand, and now we should hit connect. You'll see a check mark in the top right corner. That means we are linked up. So you have about 10 seconds to do that link up. And once it links up, you'll see the check mark. You'll see that it states toilet. That means we are on a toilet sensor. So let's just take a look here, just service-wise. Let's take a look here. Model name of this sensor is toilet. Sulfur version 30. Gives you some numbers, 80% voltage supply, so it looks good on the battery. And I just want to do some monitoring as well. This gives you some information on auto purge, and the last time it was done, we have not done auto purge on this sensor, but the opening and closing cycles total counter is 250 on this sensor. And since usage reset is 250, so basically what that means is every time it's unplugged and plugged back in, you get a different counter rating. So it looks like this one was only plugged in once here. So we're going to go back. Now we're going to go to our configuration menu. Let's start changing some parameters. So default, it's set at 14 for the range detection zone. In your user manual, you will see a range. 14 is a default of 60 centimeters. If we put that to, say, 19 centimeters, that's going to be a full 80, level 19 will be 80 centimeters. So default is 14 at 60 centimeters. Let's change it to 16. We'll see if it sticks here. Our detection delay time is set for 8 seconds. I'm actually going to put that down to 5 seconds. Good recommendation of detection. So the infrared will take about 5 seconds to detect a user in front of it. Flush delay is set for 2 seconds. You can leave that at 2 or 3. So when the user walks away, it will flush 2 or 3 seconds after they walk out of the range. Then you have your flush volume. Flush volume is set on this particular model. This is a 1.28 gallon per flush sensor. the reading shows 1.320 G, which really means gallons. So we're looking at 1.32 gallons on a 3-second flush time. All right, so if you had say you wanted to set this for a 1.6, we would set that for 3.75 seconds, which comes out to 1.65 gallons. So you have the ability to really change the flush volume. If you wanted a 2-gallon flush, you can. And usually this is for issues where you have maybe some low PSI and it's having a hard time siphoning in the toilet. You might raise that flush time so it runs for a little bit longer and then the siphon kicks in. So we're going to put it to 4.25 on this one, just pretending we have an issue here. Flush during continuous detection. This option, I would leave at deactivate. It comes default as activate. I'm going to put it at deactivate. So this one is, and what that is basically, it will flush every 2 minutes if a user is blocking the sensor. And that's a continuous flush. So I would recommend to just put that in deactivate mode. Same thing with pre-flush. This is more for urinals, and that's more of a pre-rinse on the unit. So if you had a pre-flush option, more so for the urinal settings, because you would have basically a pre-wash. It's a smaller flush to actually rinse the back wall before a user actually uses the product. Heavy flush is good for toilets. When you have a heavy flush, what that does is it sends a heavy slug of water for X amount of time. So if in the screen here you guys are seeing, if you activate this, let's activate it, right? Just for demo purpose. After every 10 flushes, that means it's going to flush for 2 seconds on its own. So we could change that to every 30 flushes, then it's going to flush for, let's do 3 seconds. So after every 30 flushes, it's going to do its own flush for 3 seconds. And this is good if you run into an issue where you have a stall, maybe it's an older infrastructure or an older building, and maybe it doesn't get used that much. So it'll be great to do that. It's a great solution when it comes to figuring out how to get a heavy slug of water to clear out sagging pipelines. So let's keep going here. Dual flush option should come deactivated unless the sensor is set up for that. You can activate it if you want to do a dual flush, if somebody is eco-minded. And really what that is, it will flush if a user is sitting on the unit less than 60 seconds, it's going to flush a 2.5 second flush setting. If they sit on the toilet for longer than 60 seconds, it's going to flush at whatever the pre-programmed flush rating is. So for this, I believe we changed it to 1.6 on the settings here. So we're going to leave it on activate. Why not? Auto purge, this is really a function that's set up for our faucets, so we don't really need to use this on toilets, but it does come up in the menu, and when you're running a faucet, you can do an auto purge. Really good for hospital settings if you want to really flush the lines with hot water. And then same thing with cleaning mode. This is for all the sensors. If you have a cleaning crew, you can activate this on the remote, and you can have that run for 360 seconds, 540 seconds, and really what that does is it just shuts the sensor down for X amount of time to allow the cleaning crew come in and they don't have continuous flushing happening. So I'm going to put that actually to deactivate. Oh, we had it in activate. We had it in deactivate. Okay. And lock preset mode, what that means is if you activate that and then you hit send, that means the only way anybody can make any changes is by deactivating that or unplugging the battery and plugging it back in to reset. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit send. You should see a check mark in the top right. You have to have the remote facing the sensor, so the remote has to face the infrared. See the green check mark? That means the setting's stuck. And what you could do is take this same setting and go to the next unit, put it in activate mode, and then hit send, and now you're essentially copying and pasting those parameters to your next unit. And again, reminder, this is for the yellow sensor products. So anything in this electronic family that has a yellow sensor, this remote is going to work for that product line. So I'm just going to back out. and go into our monitoring. Let's see if the settings stuck. Back completely out. We're going to connect. And then let's go into configurations to see if everything's stuck. So yes, 16 range, which would be about, I would say 70 centimeters, a little bit less than 70 centimeters, because default is at 14, and that's at 60 centimeters. Flush delay 5 seconds. Flush delay 3 seconds. Detection delay time 5. Looks like all the settings stuck, so I'm not going to run through all that again. So that's the run through on the 605X RCW Selectronic remote. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Vinny Arnisi with American Standard.